Tom's a great guy. He's a patriot. He's fighting for us, and he is vigilant, okay, in his fight against Sharia and Islamic terrorists. So let's welcome Tom Trento to the Villages Tea Party.
Good to be among friendlies, let me tell you. Hello, everybody. We spend most of our time with the bad guys.
It's interesting to see the military vehicles have to be home before the sun goes down. The new military, you know, sadly, yeah, right. So good to be here for sure in the Villages. Didn't know, had no idea this place was of this magnitude and uniqueness. And Damon, who's on that camera right there, said, "I bought 3 shirts at Izod for the price of 1 today." So he's wearing his new shirt. So give Damon a hand. If you watched our show, and he's got new shoes on too. If you've listened to our show or watched it on the internet, we have an Imam Abdullah. Imam Abdullah, I fool you, you fool. Well, should we reveal who that is? Why don't you say hello to everybody?
Hello, infidels. May the keys of 1,000 camels live in your bed.
We've learned that this particular enemy hates sarcasm and ridicule and humor. So guess what we use all the time? It's pretty simple. I think before we start, I would like to have all of you who have taken that oath, put on that uniform to serve this country. Why don't you stand up and we'll recognize you. Thank you. Also tonight, Aileen, you're not aware of this. Thank you for inviting me. A friend of my family that I just met last week lives as one of you. I met him last week at, the non-controversial speech I gave in Venice. He was one of the speakers, and unbeknownst to me, he's been a friend of my family, my cousin, for many, many years. We met last week, and he is here tonight. If you could just stand, Norm, for a second. If you could stand. Ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at one of America's first Navy SEALs, and this is Captain Norm Olson. Captain Norm Olson retired in the 80s, was it? Early 80s? 83. He had 2,000 jumps as a Navy parachutist, 2,083. If you want a little bit of encouragement in your senior years, on his 80th birthday, a couple of years ago, at Zephyr Hills, he made his 4,000th jump. 4,000 jumps. Get to know Captain Norman Olson, Stormin' Norman over there, for sure. He is literally a piece of American history. And sadly, American history is being rewritten nowadays by this progressive movement. And we have an administration schooled in the Ivy Leagues 20, 30 years ago, where they played games with figuring out, if we ever get to run the country, let's do this. Well, now, due to the lack of participation, primarily by serious conservatives, specifically by Christian conservatives, due to the lack of participation by Christian conservatives over the past 2 or 3 voting cycles, we now have an unbelievable onslaught, a progressive onslaught in this administration, moving not center-left, moving hardcore doctrinaire Marxist left. That's where this thing is going. And uniquely, we have a green alliance. The red alliance is this leftist move in the country led by this president, who was schooled on the doctrine of socialism, Marxism, knew nothing other than that until he got elected president and brought everything he knew into governance. There's a green component to this red-green alliance, the red being the socialist movement, the green being the Islamic movement. We now have in this administration at least 6 card-carrying Muslim Brotherhood members, and my colleague Diana West was here, I think Patrick Poole was here, speaking on this. But as we have been running around the country for the past couple of years, many years, trying to awaken people to the Islamic onslaught and the joining of the progressive left, it's kind of fallen on dull ears. But lately, with the Middle East in tinders and exploding, people are starting to listen. So tonight, our objective here is to introduce you to us if you don't know our work. We're doing some very unique work. And then to kind of do a brief, a national security brief, sketching out where we're going in the next year and what this group can do effectively. You heard me say, due to the lack of participation of the conservative Christian, we're in serious trouble. At least 2 million Christians stood home on November 6, 2012 in Florida. President Obama won by 74,000 votes. At least. Later on, we're going to show you a couple of slides that indicate a unique occurrence in Palm Beach County where we broadcast primarily. We broadcast from Miami to Orlando, but worldwide on the internet. Mark is our producer, our director. Stand up, Mark, so they can see you. Puts all our videos together if you've seen those things. The lady to my left is CJ, who is back there. CJ, if you could stand up and say hello to everybody. And then Mike is somewhere. Where's Michael? He's floating around. He's behind the scenes. If you can put the house lights up, back up. We taped that show on Friday as a response to what occurred in Venice. But we taped 2 shows, and we decided to use the second show for Friday and use this show that aired just today, 5 to 6. So while we were here, that show was on. We said it was Friday the 13th, but we aired it today. And it was our response to what occurred in Venice. And we're going to show you a little bit in Venice in a moment to sketch out the severity of the problem. And the problem is twofold in the United States right now. It's the aggressive nature of the enemy. And it's very difficult to defeat an enemy if you don't call him an enemy and identify him as an enemy. And the accommodation and appeasement, which is mind-boggling. People that ought to know better, for some reason, are accommodating and appeasing the enemy in such a way that the enemy laughs like crazy at Americans and loses the respect that this enemy used to have because of the lethality, whether in the battlefield or whether in the marketplace at home, the lethality of America in dealing with sworn enemies. So we're going to put all those pieces together. We're going to open it up for a lot of Q&A, questions and answers. And I'll try to make some sense out of the Middle East. Washington is too soon yet to know what's going on. The last they've said is it's a Navy veteran. The one who is dead was a Navy veteran and had a false ID card to get in, possibly 2 accomplices. So though some of this has the earmarks of a jihadi attack, we read all their literature that they publish, the jihadis. They publish a magazine quarterly called Inspire. And one of the mandates in there are that the various cells, whether it's Hezbollah on the Shia side or the Hamas side, one of the or Al-Qaeda cell, that they work independently in small groups and just create this sort of chaos and death to continually put America on its toes. We don't know if this has anything to do with that. There's some earmarks. It's not looking like it's an Islamic attack at this point, but yeah, we just have to be careful and take a look at it. The United West, you see it up here. I originally started an organization a few years ago called the Florida Security Council, and to help Floridians prepare for the problems from terrorism, and particularly in light of Florida being used as a launching pad for 9/11. I mean, you know, some of this is the interesting legends. Everybody knows a terrorist that lived next door to him in Florida. But seriously, many of the terrorists not only lived here, but trained here and took off from here just days before. So started an organization to understand that and prepare Americans in the state of Florida, which is a targeted state. But pretty quickly, we were all over the country, all over different parts of the world, and changed the name from Florida Security Council to the United West. Because those words were chosen very carefully, the United West. We have right now what Samuel Huntington, a great historian and scholar, calls a battle of the civilizations. And right now, there's a battle, essentially the East against the West, the Middle East against the West, the Islamic mindset, which started on a war footing about 1,400 years ago and has never stopped. If they stop, it's only because there's something obstructing their continual path of warfare for world subjugation. And the West historically has stopped Islam, even at the gates of Vienna in the 1600s. But right now, this movement is an immovable force. I mean, it's just gaining ground worldwide. And we formed the United West, change the name, to unite Western civilization, built upon the principles of the Judeo-Christian world of Greek influence, Roman influence. That's the West, where there's individual freedom, there's liberty, there's religious freedom, there's the respect for human rights, there's civilized government. The Greeks and Romans had republics 2,000, 3,000 years ago. Islam has been a totalitarian Islamic supremacist concept from day one and cannot change. So we have two political systems, republicanism in a democratic format and Islamic totalitarianism. That's the battle that's taking place right now. And it's unfair in many respects because the West fights in a civilized manner. You ever see the British? I mean, they wear, you know, suits and ties to the battlefield historically, and very civilized. The various rules of warfare, whereas this enemy fights in an uncivilized manner for a lot of reasons, to instill fear and terror into the hearts of the enemy. Why do you think the YouTubes have in Syria have jihadis cutting the hearts out of their enemy and eating their hearts, literally, on these videos, cutting their heads off and holding them up? This is simply a doctrine of warfare to terrorize the enemy, and it works. It works. It's working against us right here. And it's tied the hands of many of the leaders, military leaders in our country, sadly. So our organization seeks to defend the U.S. Constitution. We think that's great, and these signs are just wonderful. Whoever is making these signs, keep them coming. We need more of them, for sure. Second thing we do is we stand with the state of Israel. We believe, yeah, absolutely. You know what it would take financially to put 7 million people in the middle of 300 million enemies and to keep watch over those 300 million people? I think it was General Haig said, we would need several aircraft carriers and all kinds of bases at multi-billions of dollars monthly to have the kind of coverage and intelligence that the Israelis provide for us on their own, basically. They have a nation there. Just purely from that calculus, national security calculus, it is essential to stand with Israel. But there are many other reasons too, so we do that. We fight against Islamic jihad. We don't hate Muslims. I'm a Christian. I don't hate anybody unless they're trying to destroy that thing or anybody in this room. But I don't hate Muslims by any means. But we hate an ideology that is focused on the destruction. This sounds so stupid, you know. It's focused on the destruction of America and Americans. Yeah, we hate that. We hate that kind of ideology. Some of you fought in World War II to do the same thing we're trying to do here on the home front that needs to get done. So the third thing we do is try to fight to stop Islamic jihad. And the fourth part of our mission statement is to absolutely defeat on every move the President of the United States of America, okay? I don't understand how this happened. I spent all of 2007 and 8, and particularly the month of September 2008, running around trying to create a national security argument for John McCain against President Barack Obama. And we distributed this movie back in September of 2008. It's called Obsession, Radical Islam's War Against the West. This thing changed my life, and it brings together this battle, this civilizational battle. If you have not seen it, you need to. They're back there for free. Please take one, watch it, get your friends in your home. It's 4 or 5 years old. It's absolutely relevant. But in 2008, September, I was part of a small team that distributed, you ready? Distributed the largest distribution ever of a DVD. We distributed 30 million copies of this. 30 million copies. I went to both conventions, the Democratic and the Republican convention, and hired teams on the ground to distribute these at both conventions. That was a trip. But what we did primarily, we picked 11 states and 100 newspapers, and we inserted just the DVD on a full-page ad in these newspapers, and we launched it September 7th, September 14th, September 21st, September 28th, and the world fell apart on the last week of September, if you remember, when the stock markets crashed and all of that. And national security, which we were putting on the front page because of our program, it was a $20 million program. One individual stepped up and wrote a check for $20 million to do this. It was pretty amazing. And there are people out there that do that. National security got knocked off the front page. We know the rest. But President Obama is the absolute worst development in the United States in my lifetime, that's for sure. He's bad on two levels. His policies are bad, but his ability to mesmerize an audience may be infinitely worse. Because when you have low information voters, essentially many who follow him, and then you have self-centered voters, individuals who look at him as Santa Claus, it's very easy for him to flash that big smile, have his wife come up on stage, have his lovely kids there, and do his shtick, which is extremely effective. In terms of a leader, we could tell you the inside story of Operation Neptune Spear, which was the killing of Osama bin Laden. He wanted nothing to do with it. Panetta, he was on the golf course. Panetta gave the order for the whole thing to go through, and the SEALs didn't call back until they were out of Afghanistan into Pakistani territory. It couldn't be called back. 3 times Valerie Jarrett told the president, no, we're not doing this, no, we're not doing this, no, we're not doing this. So, but you know, he gets the credit for all of this. So we have to stop him. We have about 418 or so days to November 4th, 2014. If we mess up on that day, we may have 4 more years till 16. If we mess up on that day, we have entered a new period in American history where we will launch to the left. It'll take 1 generation, 25 to 30 years, to change that, but the damage may be so done by the increased spending, by the appeasement to enemies, and by the self-centered nature of Americans, that this country will go the way of other empires. They will just be defeated by some external enemy, maybe without firing a shot. Could happen, and it's going to happen unless brave individuals stand up and have one more deployment, maybe. So I want to show you, you know what, let me stop there for a second. Take any questions. What time, where's Aileen? Right. What time do I have until? Tomorrow. Tomorrow. All right, well, yeah, we're staying right down the street, no big deal. Let me take 1 or 2 questions, then I'll move into the next part. Yes, sir?
I'm going to discontinue my service with DirecTV because you're carrying Al
Al Jazeera.
Now, is that true? Do you know? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Should we take that approach, or is it to our advantage maybe to learn something?
Yeah. Al Jazeera is the real name of the station. Al Jazeera. That's what we named it the day we found out that Al Gore sold current TV to Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera is an Arabic name, means the island. It's out of Qatar. Al Jazeera is a fairly extensive news bureau, worldwide global bureau, and it's the ruling family in Qatar owns it, Qatar. It is a front group for the Muslim Brotherhood, is what it is, but it doesn't present its evidence in a completely, its news in a completely skewed fashion 24/7. It actually has very good programming that's very good in many ways, and then it slips the poison in. So the poison is there. Al Gore sold current TV, which was a dying network, for $500 million in a very questionable deal to a jihadi organization that has links to terrorism. And right now, the Al Jazeera news reporters, when they report from Egypt, can't identify themselves because General Assisi will kill all of them because he knows they are a Muslim Brotherhood front group and he's going after the Muslim Brotherhood. Al Jazeera is my new favorite station on DirecTV. AJM. I cannot turn it off. 358 on DirecTV. I know many people are trying to boycott it, all of that. I see it as opposition research. If you watch it with a learned eye, we have seen people, we are fighting in Florida on those programs, and we've taped them and brought that information on our show. So I would hesitate before discontinuing it. I would start watching it, watch their news reports, watch their specials, and you will see a Muslim Brotherhood slant, and you will start to see the big picture developing. Now, that's those of us fighting this battle. But it's going to be influential in the low information voters saying, oh, these are great people, you know, they're on. This is a free country, they're on, and they're going to influence people improperly. But you need to do the opposition research, and I would not get rid of it. It is. What's that? It's on Dish, what, 250 something? 215. We're doing a commercial for Al Jazeera. How'd the world ever come to that?
I have a general question relating to Sharia in general. Why can't the argument about Sharia be completely independent of Islam and say no absolute religion should ever be given civil authority?
Great question.
Because they always abuse it in the
The question is, why can't we expose the political component of Islam and do it in such a way that we're not violating a Muslim's right in America to worship? We should. We do that, our organization. But the Islamic world, and particularly the Muslim Brotherhood, that has a written plan And by the way, I have a book here. I have a book that explains all of this. You've seen this book before if Diana was here and Patrick Poole. I'm one of the 19 authors, Sharia, the Threat to America. And I think they're $15, these things. We're selling them. I'll autograph it. If you don't have the money, tell CJ and you can make a donation sometime. But we only have about 15 or 20 of these things here. We want you to leave with this if you don't have one. And everybody says after we speak, well, what can I do? What can I do? Yeah, I just gave you a free movie. Watch the movie this week. Now we're giving you a free book if you can't afford it. If you can afford it, great. And read the book this month. You will know 90% more than the average American just by these two bits of information. In this book, it explains that Islam is primarily a political system with a religious veneer. But from a propaganda perspective, it's presented. Do you know how many top-notch K Street, DC K Street PR firms, the Saudi American PR firms, the Saudi government has to do their PR propaganda campaign in the United States? It's unbelievable, and they're very effective. They present Islam as a religion of peace. And as much as this president has dropped the ball, sadly, George Bush dropped the ball also, particularly in his last 4 years. He was a very good president. He had advisors, one of whom is a gentleman by the name of Grover Norquist, we'll name him. He is a Muslim Brotherhood operative, and we've told him that a million times, and he's the head of Americans for Tax Reform. And he's great on that, but he's also pushing the Islamic agenda. George Bush bought it. George Bush had Rahman Alamoudi, as an advisor on Islamic affairs. Alamoudi's doing 23 years in federal penitentiary right now for being involved in funding terrorism and trying to kill Gaddafi. And Alamoudi, who was a friend of President Bush, was the advisor for selecting the chaplains in the federal prison system in the United States, the Islamic chaplains. 19% of prisoners are converting to Islam in federal penitentiaries right now. 19%. It's fascinating why they are. And Alamoudi also selected the chaplains for the United States military, the Islamic chaplains, advisor to President Bush. So we have been arguing, and this book lays this out clearly, that no, we need to look at Islam as a political system. And there's nothing wrong with confronting political ideologies, respecting an individual's right to worship. But if in their right to worship they see the need to implement Islam, Sharia compliant Islam, and destroy the U.S. Constitution, they become an enemy of the state. It's pretty simple, not that hard. So we're going to show you George Bush's advisor at Lafayette Park, 2000, a year before 2001, leading a little Republican parade.
Anybody is a supporter of Hamas here? Anybody is a supporter of Hamas here?
This is 2000, right across the street from the White House, President George Bush's advisor on Muslim affairs and the individual that determines who the Islamic chaplains are in the military and in the prison system, cheering on Hezbollah and Hamas. He's in jail now. This is how infiltrated the Bush administration was, and we don't have enough time to tell you how infiltrated this administration is. But it's a cultural battle, and a serious cultural battle. In fact, one of the points that CJ is raising, if you remember when 9/11 occurred and a Saudi prince Al-Walid bin Talal wrote a $10 million check and gave it to Mayor Giuliani. What did Giuliani do? Do you remember? He said, get the hell out of here with that check. Because the prince from Saudi said, just recognize, yeah, Giuliani, give Giuliani a hand. The prince from Saudi Arabia, all he wanted Giuliani to say was to recognize Americans' foreign policy had something to do with the attack. Giuliani said, take your money and get out of New York. Well, the prince, there he is right there. That's Prince Al-Walid bin Talal, one of the key princes, a billionaire in the Saudi family. And that was in Lower Manhattan. He took his money, he went to Midtown and went to News Corp, owned by Rupert Murdoch, and they produce Fox News. And he invested in News Corp a few years ago, and he's a 9%, one of the top stockholders in News Corp. That guy has an influence, a significant influence. If you want to know why Glenn Beck isn't there anymore, this guy has an influence in Fox News right now. Fox News is not the same Fox News as it was a few years ago. If you want unadulterated, uncensored information, where do you turn to? To us, to us. Aileen, yes. Do you have a question? She has a question. Oh, you got one there? Okay, I'm sorry.
Just a short one. Is there really such thing as a moderate Muslim?
Okay.
I keep hearing that, and I think it's bull.
You asked and answered your own question. I can't add anything to that. I'll add something. Not only did the Prince Al-Walid bin Talal write a check in Midtown, but he went over to Georgetown in D.C. and he doubled down. He wrote a $20 million check. He wrote a $20 million check to Georgetown, and it's the Prince Al-Walid bin Talal, chair of Christian and Muslim understanding. And he's funding scholars there to teach. Who goes to Georgetown? When you want to be a what?
A lawyer.
Georgetown is one of the top schools in the country that trains State Department employees. These guys know how to invest their money. The money has been invested at Georgetown, and the State Department employees, those who are going to go worldwide with a message, are being trained by Muslim Brotherhood influenced operatives at Georgetown University. This is the level of infiltration. To answer your question, the best way to answer it is go to the president of Turkey, Recep Erdogan. When asked that question, he said there is no moderate Islam, there are no moderate Muslims. Islam is Islam. That's the president of Turkey, okay? Now, whenever you deal with these kinds of issues, you got to define the words. What does moderate mean? If you have there's a system called Islam. Then there's human beings called Muslims who may or may not follow the system. Just like there's Judaism, some Jews follow it. Christianity, some Jews follow it. It's critically important to determine whether or not a particular Muslim follows Islam or rejects it. If he's rejecting Islam by doctrine, he's not a Muslim anymore. He's an apostate. So from the doctrinal point of view, a moderate Muslim is an apostate. He's not praying, he's not doing any of this stuff anymore. And he doesn't believe in the worldwide necessity for conquest. If you find a Muslim who rejects all of that, he may be a friend of America, but he's no longer a Muslim. So it's a little tricky, but technically speaking, no moderate Muslims, yes.
It's a very nice segue into your Venice speech.
Yeah, it really is. Aileen, because she's the boss here, then we'll go into that.
No, I'm not really
Okay.
the boss, okay? I just follow their orders. My question is, or my comment is, and you can help me with this, is how do we take the influence away from these media people and put it back in our hands like you are doing and like we are trying to do by broadcasting outside of the media? How do we continue and how do we spread our message?
Yeah, when I was running around as a younger activist many years ago, it was, fax machines, you fax stuff around. Now it is amazing. I mean, the two folks who are driving the motorhome around, what a phenomenal way of spreading a message, number one, and that's just on the street. But I think you guys right here, these guys up here, Ziegler, right? He writes an article weekly. His wife edits the article, and they pump it out to various mail lists. That is phenomenal influence, just this microcell capability. Now, if you could organize it at a little larger level and target the firepower, then you'll be a force multiplier in here. You know, you may have 10 of you doing the same sort of work going different places, but if you target it, I don't know, Marco Rubio maybe, and some others in a particular rolling out fashion with various messages, you can increase the effect that your email onslaught has. And for many of you, you're not going to get out there and do what we do, confront people all over the place. But you can do it through computers. And it's a great way of doing it. And we can help you with that. But we're going to show a 3 or 4 minute piece. This is me speaking, and Captain Norm Olson was there last week also as one of the featured speakers. This is 4 minutes where I made a couple of statements that fried some circuits of some folks. We'll show it, then we'll come back and explain it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the definitive battle on in the epic of mankind ever. We are in a battle that has the capability to bring about, no hyperbole here, to bring about the end of the world as we know it now. And there is a determined enemy, unknown by this administration, and sadly the administration before, unknown in its essence. Terrorism, that's not the definition of what we're fighting. Extremism, not the definition of what we're fighting. I don't know about you, but those of you who have served here know it's difficult to defeat an enemy you cannot name. We are in a battle where more names will be engraved on more granite in this country, and the prospect of winning going forward, as I see it and many others that do the work I do, is slim to none in terms of defeating this enemy. You see, this enemy, which is Islam, I'm not qualifying radical Islam or Sharia Islam. The enemy is Islam. It's not our job to tell Islamic scholars that they're wrong in their belief. One of the doctrines of Islam is Islam, not radical Islam or moderate Islam. Islam, one of the doctrines, one of the defining elements of that system, and Islam is primarily a governmental political system with a religious veneer. It is dedicated, when you apostatize as a Muslim out of Islam, you become an enemy of the state, a traitor, because Islam is a state supremacist totalitarian system. What I'm saying right here is unknown to John Brennan, the head of the CIA, unknown to him. It's unknown to Valerie Jarrett, chief advisor, and Susan Rice, to this president on national security. Islam, by its doctrine, by its scholars, is in a constant state of war. Dar al-Harb, constant state of war against the West, the infidel, the Jews, the Christians. Until we understand and have a war footing that is constant, the enemy will prevail. Maybe not kinetically, but there's a cultural Islamic jihad going on in this world, equally, if not more deadly and dangerous to Western civilization. And you will see it today manifested in kumbaya interfaith meetings. where the Islamic subtle infiltration, IO, influence operation modalities are taking place. I know I'm hitting you with a lot of stuff today, but we would be remiss for those names engraved on that granite and for whom those flags are flown at half-mast if we did not honestly speak out about the war that we're in the middle of, folks.
You're wearing the same shirt, by the way.
No, it's a different one. That's a different one.
Pissed off a lot of people.
Yeah, huh? Pissed off a lot of people, the captain said. I don't know, what did you think? Well, what do you think, raise your hand, what do you think was offensive about what I said, which is, go Google my name in Venice and you'll see all the newspaper reports and all this stuff. What do you think was offensive? Yes, ma'am.
You told the truth?
You know, if you get nothing else out of today with us being here, that's the most appropriate analysis of the problem we have. People do not want to hear the truth, and when somebody says it, they kill the messenger instead of saying, what is his message? It's interesting that happens. Yes, ma'am.
If a Muslim is a true believer in Islam, how can they be a true American person?
You want to answer, Imam?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I always tell...
Get the mic, get the mic.
As Imam Abdul, tell him what you got.
Well, as I tell people, the better a Muslim you are, the worse a citizen of the United States you are. And folks, that's a fact. The better a Muslim you are, the worse a citizen you are. Because Sharia law is absolutely in contradiction to the Constitution of the United States of America. So the next time someone from CARE or United Voices or someone tells you that Sharia law and the U.S. Constitution can live in harmony, you just spoke to a liar.
Yeah, and we understand, you know, I mean, we're professionals at our work. We understand that the average person doesn't do the serious analysis and research into Islamic doctrine, into Islamic authoritative thought, into Islamic theology, into Islamic history, and read the primary writers, what they mean. The primary significant writers that define the commentaries by which Muslims live their life state unequivocally, Islam is incompatible with democracy. Islam is incompatible with the West. It's very simple. Allah gave the Quran in its perfection through the angel Gabriel to Muhammad, and it is perfect. It is the constitution for Islamic states, for the state of Saudi, for Iraq, which was a failure on our part, for Afghanistan, for Iran. That's like saying you take the Bible and make the Bible the constitution for the United States. How crazy would that be, right? But Islam is primarily here's the problem. When you look at the primary scholars and see that they say this, they say incompatible, then you go out and try to communicate that information to an average person and say, the teachers of Islam say it's incompatible with democracy, and you can't be a good citizen if you're a good Muslim. They go, oh, I have my friend down the street is a Muslim, he's a wonderful person. We're not critiquing an individual's behavior. We're talking about a system that individual is part of. And that's a critical distinction that has to be made. We want to destroy the system of Islam, the political system, Sharia system, and if people want to worship any way they want, that's America. They can do what they want to. But no, you cannot be, there's a whole bunch, this book here is dedicated to teaching that America and Islam are totally incompatible. Let me sketch out the Middle East for a second, then we'll open up for a couple more questions and we'll tie this up. Yes, one more question. Go ahead. Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to remind everybody about American laws for American courts. Rather than Sharia, at least Florida is going about it the right way, calling it American laws for American courts. However, it keeps getting pushed to the side. And I think that's a project that we should really be watching.
We have been, one of my colleagues, David Yerushalami, is one of the lead writers of the law, American Laws for American Courts. And it simply says no foreign law, whether it's Norwegian law, Italian law, German law, Islamic law, no foreign laws to be used in litigating and determining certain cases. It's, I think 6 or 7 states have passed it. We failed 3 times. The Muslim community is so strong, and the Democrat left so in bed with some of these folks that and some Republicans have failed us on this too. But we're going to take another bite at the apple. Let me sketch out, we'll get your question in a minute. The Middle East, a little bit about the Middle East, and then I'll take just a couple more questions and give you a few points of action. I don't know, can you spell apocalypse? That's probably the best way to look at this. 2 weeks from yesterday, Mark Campbell right there, the guy working the machine, and myself will be with Frank Gaffney 2 weeks on a fact-finding mission in Israel. We're going to Israel, we're going to the border of Lebanon, to the border of Syria, to the Golan, going down to Eilat, to the border of Egypt, over to Gaza. I was there a year ago, Mark and I and a few others with our organization. We're going back on a fact-finding mission to see exactly what's going on. And it's pretty simple. Recently, some of the imams in Iran have come out and said, and this is a whole nother presentation, but said that the Syrian war appears in Shia prophecy. It's 2 groups, Sunnis, Shia. 85% of the 1.3 billion Muslims are Sunni. Those are the Saudi Muslims. Usually they're in white. The Shia Iranian Muslims, 15%, wear black. If you wear a black turban, you have the blood of Muhammad through your family lines. And these two hate each other and they kill each other unless there's a Jew or Christian in the room. And then they go after them. But right now, Iranian imams have come out and said, in our prophetic books, books that teach prophecy, we see the war on Syria as the definitive event that will bring back the 12th Imam, their Messiah, the Mahdi. And Imam Khomeini, the main Ayatollah Khomeini in Iran, has said recently that he met with the Mahdi. He met with him, and the Mahdi guaranteed him that the Mahdi, he would come back in Ayatollah Khomeini's lifetime, because Syria is the tinderbox. Syria is the catalyst to bringing the Mahdi back. And essentially, Iran is going to go through Iraq to the Sunnis are going to win. This is their prophetic view right now. This is what Iranians are believing. It sounds crazy to us, but if you want to understand the enemy and their threat doctrine, you have to understand the way they think. They believe right now the Sunnis are going to take control of the Shia state, Syria, and then when the Sunnis are killing the Alawites, which is Bashar's group, the Christians and the Kurds and the Syrians, when the Sunnis are doing that, then Iran will launch a Syrian army to prevail and defeat the Sunnis in Syria, and then there'll be a continuation for the heart of the earth, the center of Islamic doctrine, to free and to open up what? Al-Quds. They're going to go through Jerusalem to take over Jerusalem, then on their way to the northern areas of Saudi Arabia where Syrians live and all the oil fields are. This is prophetic teaching going around Iran right now. Now you look at that, you go, how the heck are they going to do that?
Al-Quds is Jerusalem?
Yeah, Al-Quds is Jerusalem, the city of Jerusalem.
According to our CIA.
Yeah, they need to liberate it. So when we look at the Middle East right now, we have to look at this at several levels, folks. Doing the intelligence, the analytical national security intelligence, you can't laugh at this kind of stuff because Islam is a theocratic political system. It is fueled by the theology of Islam because, as you've heard many Muslim jihadis say, we love what more than we love life? We love death more than we love life. So, and here's why, very simply. In the Islamic theological system, in order to make it to paradise, you have to live a perfect life. You have to do your 5 prayers every time. You got to do everything perfectly. If you lived a perfect Muslim life and you die, Allah could still say, nah, you're out of here. The only way to have eternal security is to die in a jihad as a jihadi. Make believe you're a 15, 18, 20, 30, 35-year-old young guy, no money, unemployed, and you've been raised in a Sharia-compliant home, and you see the battleground. Why do you think jihadis are leaving America and going to Syria right now to fight? It's amazing what's happening. You go to the battleground and you want to die in the battleground because not only do you ensure eternal paradise for you, you become a martyr in your family, a state government pays for your family, streets are named after you, and you secure the eternal destiny of family members. There's no downside in their system to fighting and dying in a jihad. So when you look at their prophetic landscape, you got to take that seriously and say, whoa, what's going on? What? We think right now, and again, we only have limited time here, but we should not be involved in Syria. Syria is essentially 3 or 4 wars going on, essentially Muslims fighting Muslims. I don't see a downside to that right now if they want to kill each other. This is a brutal world, and if 2 sides who have fought continually want to do that, why in the world would we go in there if there really isn't a legitimate national security interest for us or Israel or any Western country? And there isn't at this point. To let that whole thing degrade and watch it carefully would be the wisest thing to do. We didn't. We jumped in. President Putin is a hero right now, and some folks are saying that President Obama should go in his library, get his Nobel Prize and hand it to President Putin is what he should do with it. So watch the Middle East. I'd be glad to come back after we go to Israel and give you a real first-hand briefing on that. A couple of points. We're going to kind of wind this down. A couple of points. Mark, if you can put 1 or 2 slides up. We want to show you what happened in Palm Beach County. Mark has been working diligently putting numbers together. We had an anomaly in 2012. And look, as much as we are confrontational activists fighting Islamic jihad, we believe in the rule of law. And this country is a phenomenal country, the best country on the face of the earth, okay? That's simple. In spite of all the crap that's going on, and it's worth living and dying for, as many of you have put your lives on the line. But we have to win at the ballot box, and that's where the other side does a better job than we do. We saw, and you don't have to digest all of that, but we saw in Palm Beach County, we launched a campaign. We started our radio show September 1st last year, Labor Day. 3 months we were going to do it to defeat President Obama in the state of Florida. And the analysis has shown that we had a phenomenal impact, our radio show, along with the Republican Jewish Coalition and some other groups, Tea Party groups. Yeah. Danita Kilcullen and other Tea Party groups in Palm Beach County. We'll come back and do this around the first of the year. and it'll be a very definitive plan how to maximize your impact in November. Do this. We want to close right now, and friends of ours have a little band. You like rock and roll? Anybody like rock and roll? Okay. They did a little song that you might know, and we just love it. We think it ought to be like at the Super Bowl or something. We're going to close right now with, well, let's just play it.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fights, oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land under the fray, and the home of the brave? Because we are the brave. Yes, we are the brave. We'll fight to rename the name of the brave. We are the US of A. For those unaware, that flag is still there. It's our future to save this land of the brave, the US of A. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free, and the